Hi, I'm Peggy Fair, and welcome to the Understand Photography Show, where we talk about travel, nature, and fine art photography. Today we're going to talk about turning architecture photography into fine art with Art Becker. How's that? Art with Art Becker. I like that. Anyway, first of all, remember the Understand Photography Show is first a podcast, so if you're wondering why we don't have any visuals, that's why. We have a lot more listeners than we do viewers, but we like to put the behind the scenes on Facebook and YouTube because some people prefer to watch on YouTube. We have some trips coming up. We have still I think 2 openings for our January 16th through 19th 4-day Everglades workshop with Joe Fitzpatrick. Now, we live here, so we know where to go, what to do. Joe's been offering this trip for many years. He does have a second trip on January 30th, but that is sold out. So January 16th to the 19th still has a couple of openings. Check it out on our website at understandphotography.com. He also has a couple openings left for his Forgotten Coast trip, which is in March 25 to the 29. And that is kind of the panhandle area of Florida. We call it Old Florida. It is so cool up there. Check it out. We got pictures on there you can look at. It's really a really interesting area. Again, that's with Joe. And then we've got day trips if you live here in Southwest Florida. We are going to have a Black Friday sale on our online classes, so keep checking back. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our newsletter. If you go to understandphotography.com, you'll see it says click here for freebies. That subscribes you to our newsletter and you get something free. Or join us on one of our Facebook groups. If you just go to Understand Photography on Facebook, you'll see our 2 groups there. So Art Becker he's an amazing photographer. He has his eye on everything, but his architecture photography is what we're going to talk about today, okay? So welcome.
Thank you.
And you came down from St. Petersburg.
Yeah, St. Pete, beautiful area, great vibe, great city, great place to be.
And it's 3-hour drive?
It's a 2-hour drive. 2-hour drive depending on traffic. Depends who's driving.
I'm going to say, I've never done it. I've never gone that. I guess St. Pete's, is it closer than Tampa?
It's a little bit closer than Tampa. It depends who's driving.
All right, just give us the very short version of your biography as it pertains to photography. But remember, we want it short.
Yes, understood. Okay, all right. Started out at the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale many, many years ago.
Are you a native Floridian?
I'm not a native Floridian.
Oh, okay.
I'm a native Pennsylvanian.
Okay.
And grew up in Pennsylvania and Erie, Pennsylvania, and moved to Florida to go to college and fell in love with Fort Lauderdale and the lifestyle that is Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and started my career there and lived there for 13 years and moved back to Pennsylvania to raise our children and to be closer to family at that time and to start my career kind of over there, and eventually did work there on local level, then started doing regional, then national again, and spread my work out across the United States and other parts of the world as well.
Okay, and what kind of work?
And advertising photography almost 100% of the time.
Okay.
Architecture has always been a very strong pull for me. And it started out that way is because when I started in photography in college, the only way to really photograph anything that I could get access to were beautiful buildings.
Okay.
And Fort Lauderdale, and especially Miami, has some amazing architecture. So I thought, okay, this will be easy and fun. And eventually my portfolio had a fair amount, it was a conventional portfolio then, and had a fair amount of architecture. And when I would go out to show my portfolio, I didn't really think about that as much. And eventually I started getting lots of architects and advertising clients who wanted me to photograph architecture.
Okay.
And that's how it started. And I kind of fell into it to some extent because that's kind of what happened. And then I started to really enjoy it and started to get calls for it. And over time, I learned fairly early that you have to make your own phone ring. And so in order to do that, I would market my skills as an architectural photographer because that was probably the strongest thing I did at that point. And I would market to those people who would probably seek my work out. And then as doing advertising photography, I found really easily that people wanted to buy a print for their office or their home. And I thought, well, this is new, this is kind of fun. And it started out kind of slowly, but over time, I just kind of picked up on, okay, I can market that. And then as the internet came into place and I started selling my work on the internet, across the internet and sharing it, and the social media payment is still a big part of my career. It is now.
Okay.
I learned how to utilize that part of what I do. And then home decor or art decor for people like Amazon, companies like Amazon, Apple Computer, big national companies have bought my work. I got heavily involved in stock photography for probably 35 years.
With what? I'm sorry.
Stock photography.
Oh,
for
stock photography.
Stock photography. And they were buying the usage of my images. So my images were being seen by more people than I could have imagined. And it was kind of surprising to see your work in Manhattan in a Fortune 500 company, or to have somebody call from the United Country of Emirates, whose architecture is phenomenal, and for them to want to buy one of my pictures that I photographed in rural Pennsylvania.
And they were finding you through the stock sites.
They were finding me through the stock sites, and eventually, over time, I originally signed with an agency called Photonica, and Photonica got bought by Getty, and I was with Getty, and then I also got signed with Corvus.
Okay.
Corvus was a privately held company by Bill Gates, and so I had two agencies at the same time, and probably a third or closer to sometimes half of my income was derived from stock photography.
Wow.
And I was able to sell my art as art decor very early on, and I saw my work being displayed in places I just never dreamed of, never really thought of.
You know, what you're, just listening to your story, I think it happens to me too, but I think it happens, anybody who just keeps working hard and you just keep doing what you're doing and you're working hard, you're not like sticking at the same thing all the time, but you're kind of sticking to the same thing while you're trying other things, things just start happening. That's how I started selling my art. My studio is right here.
Mm-hmm.
This was in a redevelopment area when I bought it in 2006. So I was part of this, you know, whatever, on the newsletter for this redevelopment area, the Bayshore, I forgot what they call it now, but anyway, it didn't succeed, but they were going to have, like, this is supposed to be the arts district, right?
Right.
Which they're still trying to do that, but they were going to have these art fairs every year.
Right.
So anyone who owned property in the Bayshore Triangle area could have a free booth. They had the tent and everything.
Wow.
I didn't have any art to sell. I was doing portraiture. So I went out there and I started creating some art, mostly with my infrared camera. And I couldn't believe it. I actually made money on my first art show. And that's how I ended up getting into selling my art. I never even thought about it before because I was a portrait photographer.
You know,
I just fell into it because I was always doing something. And that's what it sounds like. You're always doing something. People find you.
They will find you. You just have to seek them out. I found pretty easily that if you're just, you sell them at a fair price and you're fair with them, that they'll buy the usage of your work. And suddenly it's on a billboard in downtown Miami and you're living in Pennsylvania.
That's
or
exciting.
Suddenly somebody's buying a picture of yours and it becomes a national ad. Or Apple calls you. You don't call them, they call you and say, hey, we saw your images on somebody, and an example would be somebody shared one of my pictures on Facebook. It's just a share of a friend who happens to be an excellent creative director, lives in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and old friend. He shared it, somebody saw it, and I got a call, and all of a sudden, I'm selling billboards across the country of image that I took.
That's so exciting.
And the nice thing about architecture is that you can go to these locations and photograph without any, you don't have to get a release, or because they're buildings that just are
they're in
out
the
there
public,
everywhere,
you
and they're in the
can't.
public domain.
Yeah, they're not hidden behind walls.
Right, and you don't have to, and part of that is being young and not understanding, in my case, when I was young at it, and learning the business. I didn't know any better, so I would just go out and photograph whatever I thought looked cool, essentially. My tagline that I use, and still do, is a friend of mine named Kim Flynn in Meadville, Pennsylvania. And she did a promo piece, which was a little tiny box. And you slide the box open, and it had a loop. If you remember the loop when we were doing film, had a loop, and underneath it had a little card that said "Find Art." Had a little portfolio. Because she asked me what I did, and I said, "Well, I photograph things that I think look cool." And but that was the extent of it. And she goes, "No, it has to be deeper than that." I was, well, I'm not sure I'm that deep, but maybe I am. And so I said, "Okay, that's fine." And she Find Art, and that it stuck. Now,
I like it.
of course, my close friends, it's like, "Where's Waldo?" kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, and that's okay because they're your friends and they do what you're going to do. But to me, it's a great tagline. And I've been interviewed before. I was interviewed at the Javits Center for Photoelectronic Imaging magazine a couple of years in a row, and I've been in publications before. And they'll say, well, "Did you change your name to suit your?" And I said, "No, that's kind of silly. That was just, I was named after my grandfather, and that's about the size of it. I didn't, you know, that was just kind of, as they say, that's a serendipity kind of thing. It just kind of happened that way."
That is
And
cool.
as a rule, but I like that tagline, and I utilize
it
it,
too.
and it's very popular, and my clients like it.
It's easy to
And
remember.
they use it. It's easy to remember, and it's simple, and so it makes it a lot easier on me.
So let's talk about architectural photography in
Yes,
general. So
okay.
how do you, okay, you said you like to go out and photograph things that look good to you. How do you, if you say, okay, how do I choose an architectural subject? Okay, now I saw in your portfolio that you did that, what's that,
Polytechnical Institute in Auburndale, Florida.
Yeah, well, of course, that's like a cool building. Everybody wants to photograph that.
Here's an example of, here's a perfect example of how to market,
Okay.
and a perfect example of how that worked for me. I had wanted to photograph that building. I saw that building. It was in a Ford commercial. They used that as a background for a Ford television commercial. And I had seen going back and forth to Orlando on I-4.
That's how I saw it. I
that
saw
building-
it from I-4.
And anybody who's an art, like we are, you would stare at it. I was like, "Oh my God, unbelievable."
It's cool.
So when it was completed, I waited, and then I didn't have time. I got entirely too busy, and I could never get back to it. So it was completed. And one day I wanted to go over to Orlando, and I wanted to go over, and I-4 traffic is pretty miserable for the most part all the time.
All the time.
And so I was going over to Orlando for a job and photographing for a builder. And on my way over, I figured I'm going to leave really early. I'm going to see if that building's pristine time. Great sunshine, great blue skies, great time to do black and white, the play of light and shadow. So I spent what I thought was going to be about an hour. I spent half of a day there just photographing for me. I just walked around, I shot pictures, and I thought, okay, this is great. Great shadows, great highlights, lots of fun, just unbelievable space. And then
if people aren't familiar with that building, do you want to describe it a little bit? Because
it looks like a spaceship.
Yes, that's a
And
good.
almost, and it's white. And if you don't notice it on I-4, then you're not looking. And the architect, I can't pronounce his name correctly, but he's very, very famous for very avant-garde architectural exteriors and interiors as well. And it's unbelievable, and those clamshell tops at the top of it kind of shift for the light. They actually are tuned to shift for the light and shift and close and move, and it's an unbelievable experience just to watch that.
I didn't even know that.
It's just an unbelievable place. And I would have suspected, which I knew, a lot of photographers would have photographed it, and they did.
Oh, yeah, I've
So I
photographed it.
contacted the architect themselves, the company, and they said, "Well, we have photographs coming out of our ears, so we don't really need more, but if you want to send us your stuff, go ahead."
Uh-huh.
And I said, "All right, that's fine." Not the kind of response you want to get, obviously. And so I sent it to them, and it kind of sat for a while, a couple of months, and then apparently the architect was looking to promote a piece they were doing, and they started looking through the photographs, and he chose mine out of thousands of tens of thousands, according to them, of images. And he chose mine, and the reason he chose mine is he felt like I got what he was trying to say architecturally, which meant that I understood that the play of light and shadow and the way that the shadows hit and the way it was designed really lent itself to black and white as opposed to color.
Okay.
And he loved my work, and they bought the usage of my work for a piece, which is on my website. And it was an unbelievable experience, and he was really complimentary, and I was very surprised and very happy, obviously, but it was just a great experience for me.
So when you said you sent them work, how did you send digital files or?
No, I sent them low res versions, so
Okay.
they could view them.
Okay.
And they just love the low res versions, want a high res version, and use the Dropbox.
And you put your name on them on the front?
I did initially, but they wanted
Really?
to see them raw first.
Okay.
They wanted to see them how they were without, and
But when you just sent the first, when they
Did-
said we're not really interested, your
Yeah.
name was right on the front,
Yeah,
right? Because
obviously.
otherwise they could get them
Well,
confused with everybody else's.
They could, yeah, that's correct. So my
Right.
name was on everything.
Okay.
And my name's underneath in metadata anyways.
Yeah.
I'm
but-
pretty good about that stuff. I learned pretty early on that if you don't, if you're not smart with the way you send your images, somebody will use them illegally. And that's an unfortunate part of the internet. I think the copyright laws haven't stayed up with the way we post things.
Right.
And I think that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
But that's another subject.
Yeah.
But that's the way, and they just love my work, and that's a good thing. And then I've been back there a few times to photograph a few things for them directly. That's been really good for me because he's a very famous architect, all over the world, and that's a pretty nice caveat to pick up.
Yeah.
That's not too bad.
So why do you think yours stood out? Like if I want to be a better photographer, what would I do? What did you do?
Okay, a big thing for me is time of day.
Okay.
Obviously, I don't want to photograph at high noon because I don't want shadows, but sometimes I do.
Those pictures, I looked at those pictures of what's
Yeah,
it called?
Polytechnical Institute.
On your website, and they were all harsh shadows.
Yes. I got there at 9 o'clock in the morning, which was a little later than you normally would get, but the shadows were high, and I waited till 10 o'clock because I could see that was going to make it happen.
They were awesome.
And
the shadows were
Oh
awesome.
my God, it was just great. And the security people just let me wander. It was off school time, so it wasn't.
You weren't in the way.
Yeah, I wasn't in the way or
There were no
anything.
people.
I asked if I could park, and it was fine because you kind of watch that stuff a little bit, and so they didn't care as long as I didn't.
They didn't care. We were there at late, like it was getting dark when we got there, and they were just okay. It must be a really common thing for photographers.
It's
to
a
go
common thing to
photograph
arrive
that.
at a place like that. So but I chose that, and I go to, if I'm photographing specifically for a client, I go there pretty much early in the morning because I want to get early morning light.
Okay.
And then I want to photograph anywhere between 5 a.m. and maybe I want to be done by 9 o'clock. And then I don't
But
want to.
9 o'clock, the shadows are
Shadows,
pretty harsh,
yeah,
right?
they are. And so a client specific to an architect doesn't want those.
Right.
Sometimes they do, but usually they don't. And then builders never do. So they just don't want any shadows.
Right.
And I think shadows are natural anyways, but so there's always that give and take with an architect or a builder. And when I photograph interiors, time of day doesn't really matter to me because I'm going to light it and I'm going to utilize the light that I have. So I'm going to utilize, your best ally when you're photographing interiors is available light. And then I use alien bees made by
Okay.
Paul C. Buffett, and I just kind of
Those
tweak.
little- they're so cute.
Yes, they're little and they travel well.
Yeah.
And when you're traveling nationally, it helps a lot to make things lighter. It's just easier.
How
on
do
me.
you light in? Well, let's go to interiors later. Let's
Okay,
stay on the
that's
outside.
fine.
Let's
Okay.
stay outside.
Okay, the outside, I find out first which way the building faces. I find out if I'm going to
Okay.
be there late in the afternoon or early in the morning to photograph the front of the place. The
Okay,
front
so
of-
you want the light right
I-
smack dab
I want
facing
early
the,
morning light as it's coming up so I can get beautiful early morning twilights and get that magic hour, as we know, magic hour in the morning and the magic hour in the evening. And I want to photograph that optimum times.
So you're seeing which way it faces.
I'm photographing which way it faces and finding out
So
what,
if the light is coming from the side,
if the building is facing north, there's never going to be any light on it. If the
Okay.
front of the building is facing north, there's never going to be light on it,
all right.
unless you're someplace else. So, but in proximity to where we live, and even nationally, most things are photographing north they're hard to photograph the front because there's no light directly. There's only light late in the afternoon, western light, and it kind of slices across the front of it, and that's kind of nice sometimes.
Okay.
So it depends on which way it faces. Find out that first. Then I find out what the client's looking for, what they're trying to say with their architecture. How are they trying to say it?
Okay.
And one of the things I pride myself to do every single time I photograph anything architectural, I always want to photograph 1 or 2, maybe 3 images that they look at the image and go, where is that? They built it, they designed it, but they have no idea where that is. It's so abstract and so different. Where is that? And I tell them, really? So I like that because it.
Like, what's an example?
Well, an example is I photographed for Burdines, and I photographed the edifices of a Burdines in Fort Lauderdale, and it's just a little tiny little piece of the architecture, and the architect went crazy and said, "This is amazing. Could you go around to 6 different places across the United States and photograph just little details for our buildings?"
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I know that. How much fun is that? Those opportunities happen if you're creative and if you pay attention. But if you're just out there, like you said, and doing what you did, and finding other ways to photograph in different areas.
And be open to things.
And be open and be open to the suggestion of the client as well. I think because I'm a talkative person, sometimes I need to bite my lip a bit. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I've had to learn that over the years. And that's a really good thing for me. And the other thing is that I've learned to listen more to what their needs are.
Yeah.
Because I think each of us as photographers, an architect friend of mine, Herm Weber, coined this phrase. He says, you go into any job with kind of like a bag of tricks that you carry in with you. That's an imaginary bag, but it's in your head. And you take that bag with you and you try not to open that bag. You try not to use those tricks and to try to reinvent that yourself every time out. And that's a really good way to think, because then you're creating something completely new to the client.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that.
Yeah,
Make sure that gets in the show notes, Heather. Because you're right. Because, you know, I mean, I hardly ever do weddings anymore, but I did weddings, you know, every Saturday for many years of my life. And, you know, you got to the point where you felt like you could do it with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
And then I started forcing myself to assist other photographers because I felt like I was losing my edge. And being an assistant was such a great idea. If anybody's a wedding photographer, I highly recommend it because you don't have all the pressure of everything that you need to get done. So your brain sort of relaxes and starts being more creative and seeing things. And
you know, I worked early on in my career as an assistant. Like any photographer that comes out of school, at least in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, you become an assistant and you learn to be quiet and watch what they do. And the big thing for me was always find the most unique thing to photograph of the subject, no matter what subject matter is, whether it's architecture, whether it's a rock and roll show, whether it's a portrait like you do. It doesn't matter what it is. Be unique. That's what you can make your images always stand out. Is always have unique images, and try everything you can to create that.
so when you do the architecture, you're there, let's say early in the morning, you're doing the big wide shots. It's still the blue hour, basically.
Right.
So you're
correct.
You know, you have the whole building lit up usually.
Natural light.
Natural light.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then sometimes I will use painting with light. And you paint with light. You've done that before.
I've done it, but explain it to the audience.
Okay. Painting with light is that you have a camera on a tripod, and you take a light, whether it's plugged in, whether it's a 12-door quartz light from Home Depot, or I use a little tiny handheld searchlight, which I bought from Walmart for $15, and I can light up the front of a building with it because it's such a strong, powerful light. It's not an LED because LED is not powerful enough for what I want.
Okay.
And then I just open the shutter and add light where the absence of light is. So you're literally painting with light, and if you do it in a really concise manner, you can add light where there isn't, and it's a beautiful way to go.
Now, do you work with an assistant?
I do if I'm out of town and I hire a freelance assistant.
Okay.
On a regular basis, no.
No. So if you're doing the light painting, you're doing it on your own.
I'm doing everything on my own.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but it's still a lot of fun.
And so you go around with this light, you paint in the dark areas that you want to, and you disappear because the shutter is so slow.
The shutter's so slow that I'm moving around, adding light. I may walk up to it, and I may get closer to it, but I'm moving enough, and the shutter's so slow, you're not going to see me.
And so then you go back and shut the shutter off.
Close the shutter, look at the image, decide if it's going to work, and go to the next angle that I think is going to work.
And how do you know when you're light painting how much light to paint? That's the question that comes up all the time. And
how do you know how much to paint?
Answer.
Okay, I think that you don't overdo it.
Okay.
It's kind of like when I first started using Photoshop, I like saturated colors, so I used the saturation tool very heavy, and it looked unreal and unnatural. Don't overdo it.
Okay.
Make it look as natural as possible to the eye. Don't add things that aren't there.
So when you're using your flashlight or whatever it is to paint in, you're just going in the really dark parts because you don't want that to look
No, and I
black.
don't want it to be blown out either. And
yeah,
I
but
don't,
you still want it to be darker or else the house will look
I
funny.
want it to be so different that people, my job, our jobs as photographers, all of us, is to get people to go, wow, I want to go there. As an architectural photographer, if I've done that, my job's kind of over. The next part is, okay, are they going to go there? Are they going to go to college? Like at the college there, Florida Technical Institute, whether it's a building that somebody wants to visit, maybe it's an apartment complex, it's beautiful, and I can make somebody want to go there by the way I compose and the way it's lit, and make somebody go, I want to go there and see that. Or I want, better than that, I want to live there.
Yeah.
That's, if you can do that, that's pretty cool to me. I mean, you can't really top that.
So you start with a big group, a big shot of the whole building, and then you work into smaller areas?
I work into smaller areas.
What are you looking for? Are you looking for lines? You're looking for
I'm
details?
looking for lines.
You're
I'm looking to lead your eye.
Okay.
As any artist will tell you, we all know how to lead somebody's eye by creating an edge or using a corner of maybe a part of a curb that's going to lead and kind of curl around, and it's going to lead their eye right to the image. And if you've done it long enough, you sort of, it's second nature, and I don't really think about it as much. It's hard.
You've trained your eye.
I've trained my eye to do that.
But for a lot of our audience, they're still new in photography. They need to train their eye on that. So what are they looking for?
They're looking for lines
something
that lead your eye to the subject matter that you're trying to photograph.
Okay, so it could be a road.
It could be a road. It could be a curb. It could be a grass line. It could be a tree.
Okay.
That maybe the tree, if the tree's in the edge of the, let's say the tree's in the left-hand side of the frame, and the tree's coming up across and it goes across, it creates a natural frame.
Oh, yeah.
Just look for it.
Okay.
It's there. If you look at Frank Lloyd Wright architecture, he combined architecture with nature, and if you look at anything he's ever done or did, it's all encompassing nature and architecture. And to me, his are the easiest to photograph ever because you can kind of play with that a little bit.
Okay, that's cool.
Oh yeah, love that stuff.
So now, okay, so you kind of fell into selling your photography as art.
Yes, that's correct.
What makes something an architectural photo art? Why does somebody want that as art?
Because you find that if the shadows are cutting across the building, and you create this piece that is, it transcends the architecture, and becomes almost a piece of art in a lot of ways, and it's so different that the client and the client may be the architect himself and go, wow, in addition to using it for our portfolio to promote our work, we'd like a print for our office for that.
Okay.
And that kind of, again, I fell into that, whereas a client would go, well, that's amazing. That's that building? Where is that?
Oh,
and
that's
so,
cool.
like I talked about earlier, and the funny part is that when I shot film, I would shoot lots of it, and so I probably cut that down some over the years, But I still do that every single shoot, every single photograph I take when I do a building. No matter what it is, I try to do that. And I sell that as art, and people love that stuff. They love architectural details because they lend themselves to your home or to your kitchen or to your whatever part of your house is or your office, because it's interesting and people look at it.
Yeah.
That's really, and clients like it.
You're right. I have seen, like,
Yeah.
in restaurants or wherever, like, 4 or 5 pictures of just little details
Yes.
of like
They love
a
that
building.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Now, let's say you photograph, I don't know, a hotel. Do you do hotels ever? Okay. And you do a lot of these little vignettes. Are you licensing your work to them?
Because I know the stock business really well, you license the usage.
The usage, okay.
First rights only.
So they can't make a print to hang on
they
their
can't.
wall.
They can't make a print.
Legally.
If they've hired me to photograph their building, let's say the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Clayton, Illinois, I was there photographing, and for the landscape architect. And when the project got completed, the Ritz-Carlton themselves wanted to buy the usage of my images to use in
Because the landscape architect who hired you, so he can't give the Ritz usage.
No, I can.
Okay, so
And
they
I-
contacted you.
But I contact the client first who hired me.
Okay.
And say, are you okay with this? If they're
Oh,
not, I don't.
Good for you. Okay.
I don't. Ethics is what you do, nobody's looking. So you call the client, say, is that okay? Client says yes. You contact the Ritz-Carlton, which is a huge operation, and we'd love to use these in 10 of our hotels. Wow, okay. How would that work? Because we need prints of this, this, and this, and this, and this. And then you negotiate, obviously, and negotiate a price that a fair usage. And it depends. But if they're going to use it for advertising, that's a whole different thing. So they're just going to use it in their hotels. That's pretty cool to me. Because they do the thing where they imprint their logo in the sand if you go to the hotel there. And when they hire you, the funny thing that happened to me is I was in Clayton, which is just outside St. Louis, and I was in the executive suite, which is extremely expensive, like really off the charts expensive. And this young man came up, and he said, well, do you need to carry your stuff up? And they said, I'm sorry, I know I'm staying in the executive suite, but I'm a photographer. You really don't want to carry my stuff, really. And he kind of smiled. He goes, "Oh, okay. So you're not? No, I'm not." So he kind of let me just take my bags upstairs, because he was thinking he'd get a big tip, is what he was thinking, because I'm staying in a fancy room, which kind of made me smile. And I was able to have access to photograph the hotel from that vantage point.
Nice.
And so they let you stay in the cool places, and they let you get those creature comforts, which is kind of fun too. I mean, we all know that happens sometimes, that you're able to get those things if you're able to get those, secure those kind of jobs.
Right.
Which is fun to me. And they buy them as art decor, and maybe they sell them. La Quinta Inns got bought. And
they did?
Mm-hmm. And so I had taken a picture of one of their hotels next to the Orlando Eye, out my window with the Orlando Eye, which is a huge Ferris wheel near downtown Orlando, and not too far from downtown. And I took a picture in their hotel logo, just randomly. When I got up in the morning, I was on my way to a shoot. I had some time to kill because the light wasn't right. So I shot this picture, which I thought was kind of interesting. And so I sent it to them. I sent it to the marketing department. When they bought it, and then they used it as point of purchase. So a point of purchase piece is those annoying things that are on your table when we're trying to eat. You know, those little triangle things that you're always moving around, so you're trying to, you know what I mean, on the table. They're a printed sample.
Oh, yes.
That's point of purchase.
Okay.
And so
the little ads they put in the little acrylic
they put
things
those
or
in
whatever.
They put those in their hotels all across the country with that picture.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's a really good usage. And that's a really random kind of thing. The first shot I took was actually with my phone, which I don't do a lot of, but in that case it just kind of worked. And then I thought, no, I got to do this right. So I picked up my camera and kind of waited for the light, just do what we do. And so I found that, and that was kind of interesting. That was a nice little thing that I was on another job, and kind of led into another job, which was kind of fun.
But you really take action. How do you stay so organized?
I got organized over the years out of habit and out of necessity. If you stay organized, if somebody wants to buy the usage of one of my pictures or your pictures, if you can find it fairly quickly, it's easily saleable. So usually within less than an hour, I can find an image if they're looking for something. Because I work directly with Getty and I work directly with other stock agencies now, I'm not under contract any longer, out of my own choice. I make more money.
Right.
If they're looking for something, I can find it within the hour. It depends on what it is and if I've got it. And I shot film for 20 years and I shot digital for about 12, 13, 14 years. So 30 plus years and more. So I have a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
So if they're looking for something that's different, they say, all right, do you have a picture of this? No, or I do. And I can kind of recall, it's kind of like a little memory bank in my head, and I know where those pictures are. I find them, I email a small JPEG, and
then go from there.
And
Now,
go
do
from
you
there.
do you use Lightroom and tag your photos that way?
I tag my photos in Photoshop. I'm a little old school that way.
You use Photoshop?
Yeah, I get Lightroom's easier, and I've tried to learn it, but it's kind of like,
You
I
have
know what
your
I know.
system already.
I have my system already, and I
And
kind
it's
of,
working for you.
it's working for me. There's this little app on my phone called Snapseed, and a friend of mine, Marilyn Stringer, who's an amazing rock and roll shooter, and she uses this Snapseed, and I had seen Snapseed before. I use it on my phone, and I really had never really wanted to use my phone with a picture, ever. And the reason I brought it up is, talking to Apple, if you look at my iPhone, my camera is in a file says useless. It's on my phone, where I put my camera, where I transfer my camera into a file on my phone. The file says useless, because when I first got an iPhone, I thought the camera was useless.
Oh.
And so when I did work for Apple, and I shot a live shot at a concert, because they asked me to do a shot at a live show. I showed the guy the file, and he goes, "Oh my God, you can't." I said, "Well, I'll publicly say that, but and I've never changed it. It's still the same."
That's so funny.
Because it's amazing what you can do, and I like these little programs. They're kind of fun to play with, and they're just kind of interesting. I'm not sure I'll ever.
But Snapseed, I'm not sure. We were
Snapseed is
talking
an
about
app.
keeping you organized. How does?
Snapseed keeps me organized on my phone, so I can pull up.
Oh,
I can pull
on
an
the
image
phone,
up. I can
okay.
pull an image up on my phone if I'm someplace and I'm not access to my computer. It's
Okay.
not with me. My point is I can send them a picture, pull from my computer to my phone through Snapseed, and email to a client. And before I get home, I can invoice them. I've been in the pool. Literally been in the pool, got out, saw a call, picked an image, found it, was able to pull it from my computer to my phone, run it through Snapseed, send it to a client, and email, and I never left the pool.
Wow, that's cool.
And it's way cool. Technology is.
I didn't know Snapseed could do that. I'll have
I
to
didn't
look
know
into
it could
that.
either until
Yeah.
somebody else showed me, so I
That's
didn't
so
know that you
cool.
could send things across and you can tweak them a little bit, do some things to them. But I can pull them from my computer. So I have a really huge database. And
the database is
The database
in
is-
Bridge, or I mean, where is
it's in my computer, and it's hooked up to drives and terabytes, and so I can pull from my computer wherever I am.
That's really cool. I have no idea how to do that.
I didn't either, but one of my geeky friends taught me this.
We don't need those geeky
Yeah,
friends.
they're the people that run the rest of our world for the most part. So I find that it was really interesting way to do it, and that's access to. And so if somebody wants to buy art decor and they're looking for something, they want it quick.
Yeah.
And they want to see it quick.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's unfair to all of us because it just takes time. But I kind of click it off and I could send it right from my. That's why I brought up that app, because it leads into.
I use Snapseed actually a lot, but I didn't know it did that.
I didn't know it did that either.
I use it for editing mostly.
Okay, yeah, and
'cause
sometimes
it's
you could take a photo with your camera and add Snapseed to it, and you get a pretty interesting technique, which I find that doesn't exist in Photoshop or Lightroom or anything else. It's just kind of tweaky. I don't usually do those painterly things, but once in a while I do.
Yeah, sometimes it's fun. I'm kind of getting good with photography. With my cell phone, I was it's in high demand. You know, I run a training center for photography, and everybody's like, what about a cell phone class? What about a cell phone class? So now
That's a great idea.
I teach a lot of cell phone photography. We just changed this year. We've been doing the Old Naples photo tour for quite a few years, but we
Okay.
just changed it to a cell phone
Oh, wow.
tour because half the people were coming with a cell phone anyway.
You know, it's funny, when I teach a class, they do ask, where do you see photography in 10 years? And I said, well, I'm hoping to be alive, and that's the first thing you say. I do anyways. And then the second thing I talk about is that, okay, this is a great opportunity. I pick up my camera that I use, and I show my gear, and I show my phone, and I say, which one would you come to a client with?
Yeah.
Because if a client's paying us as photographers a lot of money, it's expensive to go to a beautiful location to photograph their building, they really don't want to see you pull out your cell phone because they have one in their pocket.
Yeah, I know.
And they may even have another version.
Yeah.
So I get it, and I have shot some pictures with it that have been tremendous.
Well, yeah, it's extremely limited, a cell phone.
Correct.
Camera.
And I can do what I do, and
Yeah.
I don't know, I still like picking up a DSLR. I know that
You need to keep those muscles up.
I just like that stuff. I'm not a gearhead as much. I own what I own because I know what works.
Yeah.
But I think we all kind of know what works and what doesn't for us, each of us individually.
Yeah, yeah. Now, let's talk about shooting inside because we have maybe 10 minutes left. So
Okay,
let's
photographing
talk about
inside.
Photographing inside.
Photographing inside, I don't always have the luxury of time with time of day. So sometimes it could be any time of day.
Okay.
If I photograph at night, it's easy. It's just me and a tripod and a camera. And I kind of like that
Yeah.
because it's simpler. If I'm photographing during the day, I light with alien bees, and I use a ring flash.
Okay.
And a ring flash is, you know what a ring flash is.
Explain, remember,
Okay,
explain. We always explain.
Okay, a ring flash is a large ring that you put the camera on a small rail,
Okay.
and you put the lens through the ring flash. So the ring flash is a circle, and the lens is going through that circle on a little tiny rail, about this big. And it's hooked up. It's made by Paul C. Buff, and you can light it, and it eliminates shadows.
Because it's right on the lens.
It's right on the
Or
lens.
right around the lens.
And it gives you a clean light.
Okay.
Then I use alien bees. I like to use 2 lights, sometimes 3, if it's a big interior, to add light, or use kicker light so that I can just kick a little bit of light off into an area,
And
a little
do you
corner
use
that's
them
not
with a
lit.
diffuser of some sort?
I don't use the diffuser on the ring flash, but I put the lights up to the ceiling and I shine them. So as I move them up and down, I create a natural softbox. So if you take a light and you
you're
take
just shooting it up at the ceiling.
right in the ceiling, and I lower it or make it higher, and it creates a natural softbox. And you're just using
The
this,
higher it is.
the higher it is, the closer it is to the ceiling, the more diffused it is.
Right.
And the lower it is, it brings it down and changes and you can adjust the temperature, and there's all kinds of things you can
Does
do.
it give you shadows though from?
Does not give me shadows
No.
whatsoever. It just
You do
creates.
3 alien bees?
I
2 or
carry 3 with me. Sometimes I carry a backup as well.
So do you even like one on each side of the room?
No, not so
kind of
much.
thing,
Now
or-
that's a little too generic for me. I don't
Uh-huh.
prefer it that way. I prefer it a little more artistic.
Okay.
So I kind of add some shadows a little bit and just kind of play with it and
Okay.
tweak it until I see what my mind. Because you could go in and do maybe a dozen interiors, maybe 2 dozen interiors. If you have to go through a home, if you're working for a builder, you've got to go through it fairly reasonably quick.
Right.
And usually you can get maybe 3 sets of interiors done a day.
Okay.
And that's a lot. Photographing every single room in the house,
I'm
lighting
s-
every single room, setting up a tripod, setting up lights. That just takes time.
I've done very little, but I have done some, mostly assisting other people. And holy moly, I don't know how they could do it so quickly. But now they're kind of lazy now.
They're
Where they
extremely.
just do the HDR.
They do the
don't any
HDR. They
lighting
don't.
and-
They don't want to light it, and they want to. I've seen people walk in and not light anything and do available light and blow out the windows.
That's
I don't do that. We have
what most of them do.
we
here.
have beautiful blue skies here. Why not utilize them?
Yeah.
And that's really easy to do by equaling the amount of light coming in your source with the outdoor light, making the shutter higher, like 125th of a second to 250th. If you go from a 60th to 250th of a second, You get a bluer sky. All you do is look through the LCD screen. It's right there,
Yeah.
and you just tweak it a little bit, and it looks perfect. And it's natural because your eye naturally does that anyways.
Right.
You want the client to know that.
Yeah.
The client wants to feature what's outside.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the beauties of living in Florida is the outside. If they've got a pool and you photograph this beautiful interior, you don't show the pool, you're not getting another job.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
happening. So you kind of have to watch it that way too. So,
Okay.
and I light it that way. And then I do an artistic shot or two of the interior just to show some details and things like that, like backsplash and things like that, or kind of play around with the
So
idea.
you think like 2 hours you spend on the interior? How many, do you
No,
do
I can
every
do.
room,
I
or
can
do
probably
you-
do 3 models, sometimes 5, depending on a good day, and probably a 12-hour day. But you're moving, and you're busy, and there's no lunch break. You're just working it, and you're getting it done. But you're doing it in a way that makes the interior look great. Now, for an architect, it's a little different. An
Okay.
architect gives you more time because they want that individual shot of each thing. So sometimes I'll do 3 or 5 for an architect.
3 or 5 hours?
3 or
What do you
5
mean?
shots.
3 or 5
They, don't,
shots.
they only want the pristine images that you spent 2 hours lighting.
Okay.
So it's a different kind of thing.
Okay.
Depends on the client too. Some clients want more. Some clients want 6 or 10 shots or a dozen shots. So it really depends on what you talk about with the client and what their needs are.
Now, do you plant those seeds after you finish it? You show them all the work and just say, hey, if you want to do something different, like prints or something.
I kind of mention it to them at the beginning, way before
Oh, like in your
I get there.
consultation?
Consultation. I talk to them way before. If we're going to use any of this stuff, just let me know if you want to use it for advertising, marketing, and if you're interested, we can do that certainly. And we can work with you with prints. We could print on metal. We could do all these kinds of things. There's a zillion substrates that we can use nowadays. So if
Okay.
you're interested in that kind of thing, that'd be great. And I just kind of leave it there.
So you plant the seed right in the beginning.
I plant the seed right in the beginning. I negotiate my fee. I plant the seed in the beginning. Now they know where I'm at. I go to that place. I photograph that. If they choose to go that route, that's great. I don't push it real hard,
Right.
just a little bit. And then if they see something, wow, that's a really great photograph, that'd be great for the office. Then I know I've got them. It's kind of like catching a fish kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put the right bait there, they'll go with it. So it's that kind of thing.
That's
So,
good. I
yeah,
mean, you
it-
should always be. Well, I call it planting seeds.
Yes, and it's-
planting seeds
yeah,
all the time.
All the time. Marketing is marketing. It's always that way. It's always been that way, and it keeps me busy, keeps me off the streets, so to speak, kind of thing. So that's a good thing. So
Now, how much post processing do you do?
a minimal amount, as much as I possibly can. I mean, I think at the beginning I was very heavy-handed with it because I didn't understand it.
And it was fun in the beginning.
Oh my God, it was great.
I remember learning Photoshop,
Ah.
thinking it was the best thing ever.
It was.
And
cool.
now it's like, oh, do I have to sit at the computer for hours again? You know?
Well, what I try and do is, because I'm from the days of film, everything should be right in the camera. It's got to be lit properly. It's got to be exposed properly. Everything's got to be right. And shooting digital is very similar to shooting slides. Your exposure has to be pretty much on. Whereas shooting film back in the day,
You had
you could be over and under a couple of stops either
Stops,
direction,
yeah.
and you could pull it out. Digital's not that way. A lot of people think it is, but it's really not. I do not use the histogram. I know where it is. I know how to use it, but I don't use it. I look at the Finder. I know what I'm doing. When you've been shooting them for a long time, you kind of pay attention to those little details. Excuse me. And you get it right the first time.
okay.
I'm the guy who moves the sign. I'm the guy who moves the mailbox over. I'm the guy who goes over, or have an assistant go over and move the grass blades and pick up the leaves, as opposed to photoshopping them later. And I've
Okay.
worked with assistants. Well, can't we Photoshop that stuff out? It's 3 feet away.
Yeah.
You know, and
Walk over there and pick
yeah,
it
walk
up.
over and pick that up and move that over and move that table, and well, can't we? Yes, we can do all those things. I'm not doing that. I can, I know how, but that's not really. That's not. It's right there.
Yeah.
It's not, and so it was so hard the other way, you know. So I naturally did that stuff.
Yeah.
I move everything I need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you hone in on what you find interesting, in any ways.
Do you do anything like sharpen the pictures or anything like that?
I don't think I Sometimes, but not a lot. I mean, I know I've learned how to, certainly, and I know that certain things, but no, not a ton.
Not too much.
No, when you use the right gear, I don't think you need to
Do you use
do
a
that.
tilt shift lens?
I do not. I did early. See, now early on, you had to own a 35 mil. You had to own a 4x5, a 2 1/4, and a 35.
Okay.
No, I don't use tilt shift lens.
What
I-
about
co-
converging lines? though?
Converging lines, I just know to back up, and I know to straighten the lines just to back up and stay perpendicular. And I've been doing it a long time, and you can correct it later if you need to, but I don't really have to do that
You
very
don't
often.
usually? Really?
Rarely.
Even in a smaller room?
In a smaller room, maybe a small bathroom or something once in a while.
But really, you don't have
Not a ton, no. I
Okay.
mean, I know how to do that certainly and just correct it, but it looks. A photographer friend of mine uses the word wonky. It just looks like it's, the building's concaved or something. Or
Uh-huh.
It's like photographing something up at a building. I used to think that looked cool when I started. It doesn't look cool. It looks like it's going to fall over
Yeah,
on you.
I know.
So yeah, and so just back up a little, and use the right wide angle lens.
Okay.
It comes with time.
Do you have a wide angle lens that you prefer?
I like a 20, what would be considered a 21 or 20.
What kind of gear do you shoot with?
I shoot with Olympus, I shoot with Nikon, and I shoot with, a friend of mine convinced me how amazing that the Sony A9 is. And so I started playing with it, and purchasing it, and it's unbelievable. So I
Okay.
shoot with
You
some
got all kinds
different
of
gear.
stuff.
Huh?
I said, you're all over the place.
A little bit, but I'm still devoted to certain gear. I feel comfortable with certain cameras in my hand. It's like
Yeah.
driving a car.
Yeah,
It
of course.
fits.
You
That
get
kind of
used to
thing.
it.
What kind of gear do you shoot with?
Me, Canon.
Okay, Canon's great gear. I think Nikon makes great gear. I think Olympus makes great gear. I think Sony lenses are as sharp as anything I've ever photographed
Yeah,
with.
Sony's really
And they're big
they're
time.
moving up in the world. Man.
Yeah, they are. And they've moved up since we started. So
Oh, yeah.
and we've been in business similar amounts of time. So, but yeah, it just depends. It depends what I'm shooting and what I'm shooting. What's the purpose?
All right, so can you wrap it up on your best tips for architectural photography?
Yes. Best tip is if it's exteriors,
Uh-huh.
pick a perfect day wherever you live. That's first. Pick a perfect time of day, whether it's early morning or late afternoon, depending on the way the building faces.
Mhm.
And take an opportunity to visit the site before you do the assignment so that you can kind of get the lay of the land and you kind of map out. You can do notes or a little diagram or whatever that kind of works for you. If you're not able to go there, if it's a fair distance from where you're going, that's different. Then you have to kind of go off what they tell you.
Right.
But if that's not the case and you can go to this place, it's much easier. Just look around, see what you think is interesting, find what you like about the light, and then go back.
Okay.
And interiors, make them look natural. Don't make them look so different that they don't know where they are. Because
Yeah.
if you're working for a client, they want their interior. They spend a lot of money in design and that kind of thing, so they really want that done right.
Mm-hmm.
And don't go heavy-handed with any photo editing program. There's a tendency to want to do that, and it's easy to do that, and it's easy to get caught up in that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Make it look natural. People will like your work a lot better, and your work will be much more unique if it looks as natural as possible.
Okay, that's some good stuff. All right, but I'm gonna do one more with you.
Yes.
So now I've learned how to take the picture. Now I want to sell it. You got a few tips on
Okay.
On that?
Yes, I do.
because you're good at this.
Yes. Somehow I got good at that. First of all, if you photograph something that you think is particularly interesting about, let's say, architecture,
Uh-huh.
reach out to the owner of the building,
Uh-huh.
or in most cases, the architect, and reach out to them. Just reach out to their marketing person and send them a quick email. Show them a few pictures, small thumbnails, and let them know that you're interested in working with them. And that's one way.
Okay.
The other way is if you're trying to sell them art decor, then that's a different route, and you want to sell them that way. Those are two different avenues.
Okay.
Let's say you want to work for a builder who you don't really want to work for them, but you want them to buy your art decor because they're the biggest builder in the United States. Well, it's not rocket science to figure out that they're going to buy an awful lot of art for all those beautiful homes they're building.
Right.
So now I want to sell them art decor. I don't want to go all over the country and photograph all their buildings. I want them to buy my prints.
Okay.
So they can put them in 10,000 homes across the United States, and that's a whole different thing. And so you reach out to their marketing department and ask them how they buy their art, where do they buy their art, where is it being seen, and those are easy things to find on the internet. You can find who the marketing directors are. You can find who the director, in most companies, you just go right to their websites right there. And then you can send them email. You can do what used to be called the email blast, which is now an email campaign. It's the same thing. And you send them, and what I did is I wanted to work for, let's say I wanted to do some work with Target. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't really shoot still life, so why would Target hire me? But Target could hire me to buy art decor because they buy art all the time.
Right.
So I sent a email campaign to the creative director for years. I got nothing from her, nothing. I stopped for a month, and I sent out an email campaign to a select group of people I want to work for every month, and I stopped. She sent me a personal email saying, you know I've never used you, but I love your work, and I will use you eventually. I just could never find the right fit. So she liked what I was doing, but wasn't able to find the fit. Then she was able to find the fit.
Now, it's interesting you say that because I am such a fanatic. To me, the newsletter is the most important marketing. The email newsletter is the most important marketing I do.
I agree.
And it sounds like it is for you, too.
That's correct.
You sound more organized than me, though, because I just sends mine to everybody.
I have a select, like I wanted to work for Coca-Cola, I wanted to work for Apple.
So you made this specific newsletter go to those type of people.
I wanted, yes, I was looking for a specific group of people. It's more what I would call a rifle approach as opposed to a shotgun.
Right, mine's shotgun.
I don't want to work for everybody because my work doesn't fit with everybody's.
Right.
And that's fine with me. But I know where my work fits, and I know who might buy it.
That's just brilliant. I love it.
Well, that helps it, that makes it more fun.
That's brilliant.
It's very specific.
So tell us what's coming up for you.
I've got a few shoots. I'm doing some work for an art gallery in Tampa, starting next week a little bit, which is going to be kind of fun, and that's something new for me. And I'm going to photograph in Ponce de Leon. There's a lighthouse over there on the other coast. It's one of the largest lighthouses in the country, and I'm not interested. I shared a picture I shot of a spiral staircase, and when I shared that picture I shot, somebody said there was this really cool lighthouse. Well, I reached out to them, and now I have a commission to go over and just photograph the interior of the lighthouse with these winding staircases. I just reached out to them, showed them a little bit of work.
How cool.
And they love my stuff, and that's a pretty cool gig. So I can go over there at my leisure and photograph what I think looks cool, essentially, of the interior of this staircase. It's unbelievable. That's going to be
cool.
fun. So I love that.
Now you're going to speak at our statewide conference here in Florida too.
I'm excited about that.
That's
a
in
great
March.
That's in March 6th through the 8th.
I'm not sure, but it's the website I know is F like Florida, F3C. So it stands for Florida Camera Club Council. F3C.org.
I'm looking forward to that.
So you're on there. You were the featured. You came on my email.
Well, thank you.
Yesterday as one of the featured speakers at the conference.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm talking about how training your eye to see, talking about architecture, and talking about marketing your skills as a photographer.
That's
and those
awesome.
are the three subjects I'm covering at different breakout sessions.
And what's your website? Where can people find you?
You can find me at artbeckerphoto.com.
And that's easy to spell.
It's very easy to spell. It's kind of lucked out that way. Artbeckerphoto.com. And go to my site. And if you have any questions or thoughts, if you're new to photography, I'm certainly willing to answer them. Teaching and sharing our knowledge is part and parcel. And it's a privilege to be able to do that because it's a career that's given me so much, and I want to share that information.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you for being on the Understand Photography Show.
And thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
And for driving all the way down here.
No problem.
And to the audience, if you do us a big favor and leave us a review on iTunes, it really helps us come up in the search engines. It's interesting because this is so much work, and over the summer I was saying, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. It costs a lot of money. Heather makes a fortune, man. She's so expensive. And it's just so much work, and I thought, I don't know if I'm getting, you know, the results that I need out of this podcast. And then, of course, when you finally get to that point, that's when everything started kicking in. We started doing better and getting a lot of business that came directly from all of you listening to the podcast for a long time, because we've been doing this for 3.5 years now. So the reviews help us a lot, and we really appreciate it. I'm Peggy Farron. Thanks for joining us on the Understand Photography Show. We'll see you next Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.